And here we go.
There's the W. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening, everybody. You are taking a live look at a Falcon 9 rocket, which is vertical once again at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, and we are getting ready for yet another launch of a batch of Starlink internet satellites to low Earth orbit. We've got a booster attempting to fly for its 10th time for Starlink Group 6-110. My name is Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us on what is hopefully going to be a pretty launch indeed. We can see the sun starting to set, but it is still shining on Falcon 9 at Slick 40 in Florida. So fingers crossed we get a liftoff in 58 minutes time. Anyways, it's not just my voice you're going to be listening to for the next hour or so, because alongside me we have two more people who know quite a lot about Falcon 9. First of all is Alex. How you doing, Alex?
Well, I'm doing great. You said on your introduction once again here at Slick 40. Yeah, it's 2 days, 19 hours, and 17 minutes later, I guess. But yeah, so Falcon 9, just like that. Space Launch Complex 40 is the world's most active launch pad, and we don't say that just because it's really the most active one, and this shows why.
Indeed. And in the field, we have Max joining us. Hello, Max.
Good evening, everybody. And would you look at this? There's a Falcon 9 vertical on the pad, and we're going live for coverage when there's still daylight hitting us. This is wild. A Starlink while the sun is still up? It's a bizarre. It's a bizarre
What's
thing.
that blue thing?
Yeah, I know, right? We're not used to seeing this and being out here at this time of day for Starlinks, but what a treat it is going to be, because it should be launching, if all goes according to plan as it is now, very close to sunset. So launch tonight should be absolutely spectacular.
And you can see there is somebody else sat at that table at the press site. That is Jerry Pike, who will be operating cameras for us today alongside Max in the field. So thank you to Jerry for rolling out. Yeah, hello, Jerry, waving to the camera. Alex, we've seen a Falcon 9 launch once or twice before, but for those who may be joining us for their first stream, or for those who would like a refresher, what are some things we should expect to be seeing over the next 56 minutes?
Yeah,
and
so
I suppose beyond.
What? Oh,
I said, and I
sure.
suppose beyond, because, 56 minutes.
Yeah.
Is it? Now 56 minutes, there we go.
Obviously, we're not here just for the teaser. We're going for the entire launch. But yeah, so obviously in 55 minutes and 50 seconds, we're going to see the launch, hopefully, of Falcon 9 here. And today they're launching another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. For today, they're using booster B1092, a Falcon Heavy side booster turned sort of singular Falcon 9, I guess. If we were allowed to be a little bit closer, you will see that it's lacking some of the logos and things like that, precisely because it's in sort of like a Falcon Heavy side booster turned single stick Falcon 9. But yeah, so it's done already 9 missions. You can see there some of the previous missions. It's done at least 4 customer missions: NROL 69, CRS32, GPS 3, SVO8, and USSF 36, as well as a bunch of other Starlink missions: 1213, 1034, 1061, 689, and 682. Now, Obviously, as usual for these missions, the booster will be recovered, and that'll be on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Position about 600 kilometers downrange from the launch site, about to the southeast, essentially, and it's sort of located sort of northeast of the Bahamas. There you can see those different hazard zones for today's launch. And so, yeah, it's 43-degree inclination orbit, Group 6 mission, just like we've been covering for the last, 5 or 6 months. They've been launching these lately. And so, yeah, they're doing now, they're starting now some of the Group 10 missions. We saw the other day that Group 10 mission going to the middle of the Bahamas in the next couple of weeks. We got another 2 of those, except they're going northeast for some reason instead of going southeast. But today, this mission in particular that we're going to see, hopefully in less than 54 minutes, that'll be to the southeast. Yeah, so first stage going to be recovered downrange on just read the instructions. Second stage will go into orbit, preliminary orbit, then do a second burn about 50 minutes later after that orbital insertion, and then 10 minutes later they'll deploy those 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites to that target orbit, which for today it is approximately 258 by 269 kilometers in altitude. So there you go.
And Max, not only are the skies blue, not only is it daylight, but the weather forecast doesn't look too bad as well, does it?
Yeah, basically, it is about as good as it can get. So, according to the official weather forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron based over at the Patrick Space Force Base, there is less than a 5% probability of a weather-related violation for today's launch, which, again, is about as good as it can get. The only sort of hiccup there is the booster recovery weather is rated as low to moderate, which is, it's nowhere near a showstopper by any means, but it does mean that there is some either weather in the area of the booster that is either with the winds or waves or swell height that might be problematic at some point, but it isn't a high risk right now. And of course, they have launched with a low to moderate risk numerous times. So not a big deal as far as we can see, but at least in terms of weather at the launch site here, it is spectacular. We just have some cirrus clouds above us to the north and tons of blue sky with the sun setting at our back right now and a little over a 50% moon above our heads. Really, it is a gorgeous day here, with the exception that it's still a little bit chilly. I thought we were done with that pesky cold weather. And by chilly, I mean, oh gosh, what is it right now? Standby caller. It is 58 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not quite sure what that translates to in Celsius, but kind of chilly on our end. I thought we were
13.
done with that. 13. Okay, still, it's chilly either way, especially for this time of year where normally we are beginning to warm up right around now, not cool down. It was 85 degrees like 4 days ago. It was glorious. It was wonderful, and now we're back down to this. I think it was closer to like 4 or 5 degrees Celsius last night. It was pretty nastily cold. And of course, that's also why they delayed the rollback of SLS and Artemis 2 back to the vehicle assembly building was because of weather and the cold conditions. So, but hopefully that is not the case for tomorrow.
This guy's just said that 14 degrees Celsius is cold. That's literally the temperature. It was outside my house today, and I went out this afternoon. It was sunny, partly cloudy, but I was like, this weather is glorious. Spring has arrived. What wonderful weather. Like, this is almost t-shirt weather. And now this guy comes on stream and he's like, it's so cold. I've got to be wrapped up. It's not chilly. It's nice, mild temperatures.
No,
what are you talking
warmer
about?
there right now than it is where I am right now. So just saying.
I hate to say it, but this is cold, and it's cold enough to where Jerry and I are both bundled up in sweatshirts and jackets, and also Jerry, I don't know if he wants me to say it or not, but he's also wearing gloves as well.
No.
Yes, he actually is. He's not showing it right now, but he's wearing gloves, or at least one glove. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes, it's chilly, Ryan.
It's not chilly. You are milking it. You are absolutely milking it to try and make everybody feel bad for you. It is.
You're also like bombarded by the sun. Like, you are not in the shadow or anything.
Okay,
At least from what I'm seeing.
14 degrees Celsius in Spain or the UK is not like 14 degrees in Central Florida.
You're wearing gloves. I'm sorry. I'm never going to get over that. You're wearing gloves in 14 degrees Celsius weather. That is
I haven't worn
unbelievable.
gloves even at minus 22 Celsius. So just saying.
You're mental.
I know.
That is straight up psychotic behavior.
Okay, chat. I need to know your opinion on this. Wearing gloves in 14 degrees Celsius, 85 or what was it, 70 something Fahrenheit, like 50 something. I can't remember. Whatever it is in Fahrenheit. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Anyways, if you are in chat and you have any more mission related questions or comments, should I say, do tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, and that will bring it into our question queue, and we can bring them on the screen. And most of them, I'm sure Alex will do his best at answering them. We've also gotten a little bit of support before the stream even started, so very quickly, I should thank Hosier Weather. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Thank you for becoming a Red Team member. We had TJ becoming a Capcom member, which means you now have access to our Discord server, and a Hugh becoming a Red Team member as well. So fingers crossed you look forward to all of the behind the scenes content coming your way over the next few weeks, because with a big orange rocket on the pad for the time being, there's plenty of photos to come. We'll get some even closer photos tomorrow, fingers crossed, depending on how things go. Anyways, let's talk about Starlink, because that is what we are all here for today. Alex, you briefly mentioned it during your introduction there, but we have some more of those kind of 45-degree launches coming up of Starlink, but they're going to be going northeast. So do you have any idea when the Bahamas, the proper Bahamas landing trajectory might return, or is it going to be like the last time and we have no idea and they don't do it for a long time?
No idea just yet. So the two upcoming Group 10 missions, which are to this 53-degree shell, right? Like one of the things that we've seen in the past is that they seem to sort of flip-flop between different trajectories because of the weather. So the reason they go and sort of go southeast is, so today's mission, for example, they could do northeast just as easy as southeast. But in the winter months, northeast gets you to a very angry Atlantic, to put it that way. The seas are worse in the winter months up north, and so during those months they go and switch to southeast launches. So I think ever since October, November, something like that, we've been with these Group 6 missions, right? And those go to 43-degree inclinations, and they do that trajectory that we see there with those hazard zones for today's mission. Now, Group 10 missions go to 53 degrees, and in order to be able to do those higher inclination launches while going southeast, you either sort of try to dogleg, try to sort of curve around the Bahamas, or you're forced to land in the middle of the Bahamas, right? So that's what we saw the other day with that Group 10 mission. I think it was Group 10-36, if I'm not mistaken. That was about 4 to 5 days ago that happened. And that one, they did just that. You know, in order to be able to do this kind of mission, but to the southeast, instead of having to do the massive dogleg, which would eventually just mean that the rocket has less performance on actually getting the things into orbit. It will just expend that in sort of doing that dogleg instead. And so, you know, in order to preserve that performance, you just go straight, not doing any doglegs or anything, not doing any curving around the Bahamas, and just land in the middle of the Bahamas. Now, the reason why they're returning back to northeast launches instead of southeast and landing in the Bahamas, I have no idea so far. Based on the hazard zones for those two missions that are coming up, they seem to be northeast. Maybe at some point we'll get them back southeast and landing in the Bahamas, but for now, we're stuck with that. I suspect that as we move into spring, we'll probably come back to northeast launches with Group 10 missions. And so, you know, for those that might be, for example, from the US East Coast and things like that, that are always asking, oh, am I going to be able to see this? Well, today's mission, not, but stay tuned, because soon you'll be able to. Some of these missions will probably start to return, probably coming in March, April timeframe.
Fingers crossed. Anyways, as we approach T-minus 45 minutes, and we presume counting, Ground Truth is asking, is the cold in the room with us? Hi, Max and Jerry.
Yes, it very much is.
No, it's not. No, it's not. A more serious question, though, from ResistoJet, which I will pass your way, Max. They are asking if there is any chance of a jellyfish today.
So we are in pretty much as good as you can get visual or viewing conditions for an evening launch like this, because the sun will be at our back and Falcon 9 will be launching against a darker or a more dim sky than it otherwise would be with the sun higher up. So I think it might still be too bright out for a full jellyfish, but we will get a lot of we will see a lot of the exhaust remnants from the Merlin 1Ds on the first stage, and then the MVAC on Falcon 9's upper stage as well against the sky. So it won't be a full jellyfish effect. But you will have a great view of the rocket as it ascends all the way through its flight path today, because of course the sun again is at our back and is lighting everything perfectly for long-term viewing or long duration viewing, I should say. But honestly, I'm not sure. We haven't seen a launch this close to sunset in a while. But usually, if it's within 10 to 15 minutes of sunset, which it is today, then there is a jellyfish sort of effect in the sky. But again, it's a bit too bright out for, I guess, the full on effect. But it'll still be gorgeous nonetheless.
And there we go. We've got a wonderful enhanced view on the right-hand side. You can see the vehicle, kind of the payload fairing a little bit hidden by the crew tower there at Slick 40, but I'm sure that'll clear the tower in no time whatsoever, in about 43 minutes time. And we've got another question here from Cool Teacher Dude X. I'll pass this over to you, Alex. They're asking, how long does it take SpaceX to build a new Falcon booster and also a second stage? I'd imagine maybe the second stages are a little bit faster, considering that they don't get to reuse those, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess you can take this question twofold, right? In two different ways, where you have either the question about, how long does it take from start to finish, or rather, what's the cadence of them building these, right? Like how many first stages and how many second stages they can pump out of their factory every X amount of days, right? So for the first part, we don't know how long it takes, right? From like scratch to just like some rolls of aluminum and things like that to having the actual stage out the door. It's rather impossible to guess. Although I would say it's probably in the order of like maybe a year for the booster and probably a few months for the second stage. But they have multiple of these being produced in parallel, right? In different stages of construction. And so that's why they are able to pump out, like, I think in terms of boosters, we see one at McGregor at the very least, like once every month and a half, for example. So say every 40 days or so, it seems like they can do a booster. And then second stages, well, since every single launch is flying with an expendable second stage, that means at least they need to make one of these second stages every 2 or 3 days. And we know that, especially a few years ago, they expanded their production facility of second stages to a different building, precisely so that they are able to produce many more of these at the same time. So if you think about it, even if it takes like 2 months and say 60 days, right? And you're producing one of these second stages every 2 or 3 days, say it's 3 days, right? That means you need at least 20 of these second stages be made at the same time in different stages, right? In different steps of the production. So it's quite a lot when you think about it. So it's no wonder that they had to expand their footprint and things like that and be able to produce a lot of these. But that's what we can infer. Basically, we have no actual hard data on this from SpaceX or anything like that. It's just based on what we're seeing, of course, and the things that one can make guess based on sizes and things that usually take X amount of time and things like that to be made. But yeah, as another plug here, I guess, if you check out McGregor Live, you can see these first stages and second stages being tested. Second stages, before every single flight, they test every one of these, because again, they are expendable. And the first stage gets tested right after it's produced and before its first launch, goes out to McGregor, it gets static fired, and then sent to either Vandenberg or Florida to be able to launch its first mission. And after that, it never returns to McGregor. But you will still see boosters out there. And there you can see actually that McGregor live feed. Today, there's being already an MVAC engine burn, 2 Merlin engines. So you can see that Merlin engines themselves also need to be produced and tested at a really high cadence. And of course, there's also Raptor for Starship, but the question was about Falcon 9, of course. And so there you go.
And speaking about a slightly different launch vehicle, which is also currently vertical at the Cape, we have a question here from... Oh, I've lost it. There we go. That TS STEM Nerd 13, who is asking, SLS confirmed no earlier than April 1st? Question mark. Max, I will pass this one over to you.
Well, there's been no real confirmation as to when that they're going to try again officially. That is just the opening of the next launch window, and we are really hoping that is the case because April 1st is a daylight window with the window opening about an hour and a half before sunset. But given the nature of the issues at hand so far, they have not said when they're going to target the next launch window, because of course, again, it's still over at the pad, and they have to get it back over to the VAB for whatever repairs are needed on the ICPS, which is what was giving them issues after the wet dress rehearsal during, I believe it was during safing. But that is their next launch window. They did confirm in the post wet dress press conference that they of course do have windows open for May and June as well, but they are not finalized, and so they are they will have to reevaluate those windows as they come if the need arises, but hopefully it won't take them too long to get back into the VAB and fix the issue. I believe they can roll out up to, I mean, I guess just based on timelines we've seen, if they roll out before March 22nd or 23rd, they should be able to still target the April launch window. But again, we don't know exactly what the we don't know exactly how long it's going to take them to repair it. So fingers crossed it won't take too long. But also, cool note, Crawler Transporter 2 or CT2 is almost all the way up the ramp now, getting ready to pick it up and roll back, hopefully tomorrow morning, starting, I believe, first motion will begin at around 9 a.m. local time here on the east coast of Florida. So we will also be covering that all day as it happens. But that still has to come. I think, I really hope April is the case because, but back, they made a big selling case many months ago and throughout the Artemis 2 campaign so far that they were targeting no later than April, and they were really pushing that home. Of course, things do come up and things happen, but it would be a real shame to see this push into May and others going forward. So hopefully April, but it is not confirmed yet officially.
Indeed. And of course, as soon as we see first motion and that rocket moving off the pad, we will be going live tomorrow. So if you haven't already, subscribe, and notifications will be very useful. And I'm sure there'll be some updates across our social media platforms as well. Anyways, we are approaching T-minus 36 minutes. And around this time, Alex, is when the countdown starts to actually do some sort of interesting events. If you wouldn't mind taking us through what's coming up.
Yeah, at 35 minutes before the launch order sequence starts, and that's an automated process where the ground systems begin the fueling of Falcon 9. So we'll start first with RP1 on both stages. The fuel that Falcon 9 uses will get loaded on both stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 will also get loaded with liquid oxygen, and those... So in that case, since liquid oxygen is cryogenic and it's very cold, we'll start to see frost on the tank around 3 minutes after the start of propellant load. So that should be roughly T-minus 32 minutes in this countdown. So that's essentially where we should be in 20 seconds. But of course, we have no confirmation right now that they have actually given the go for that propellant load. So we'll have to stay tuned and see that frost. If we see it, of course, that'll be our confirmation. And once that propellant load starts, that'll set us up, for that T0 of, if I'm not mistaken, it's 6:04 So that will be 4 minutes past 6 p.m. and also 10 seconds Eastern time. That will be 23:04:10 UTC.
Wonderful indeed. T minus 34 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. We will stand by for most likely visual confirmation of that propellant load beginning on the first stage. Every now and then, SpaceX does surprise us with an earlier tweet than normal, but with the routineness, if that's even a word, of the Starlink missions nowadays, they don't really seem to be making that much of a fuss of them until the launch actually happens. Okay, let's look through here. We've got another question from ResistoJet, and they are asking, now we are nearly at the end of February, is SpaceX on track so far to launch more Falcon 9s in 2026 than 2025? Alex, this question has got your name written all over it.
Yeah, so I actually have, because you told me prepare your spreadsheet. I'm like, I'm already prepared because I have this already coded in my spreadsheet where I follow the projection of launches for each year. So right now, before this launch occurs, they are currently on track for 146 launches of Falcon this year. Now, of course, that doesn't count this launch. So if that happens and when that happens, then that'll be moving from 146 up to 152 launches for this year. Now, either of those numbers, if you remember from last year, it's still less than the number that we got from last year. Last year, they did 165 Falcon launches. So it's still less, but it's very close. And to be fair to SpaceX, they also tend to start the year a little bit slower. They tend to take not just the start a bit slower just because, but it's also when they try to do a bit of more maintenance on their fleet of like launch pads and landing sites, you know, when you take into account the drone ships, for example. And also in these 2 months that we've had so far, they have had a little bit less of a good luck, let's put it that way. Like they had a really good run for them for like the September, October, November timeframe. But ever since December, they have had a few issues here and there. If you remember, we had that stand down, very brief, but still stand down of Falcon 9 because of that failed second stage deorbit burn, right? So there's been a few things going on. The weather has not cooperated at Vandenberg as well. So obviously that sort of thing has been sort of playing into why right now they are a little bit under. Still quite impressive. Like we're talking numbers that are close to 150 launches this year, right? So it's still quite impressive. And let's not forget that, as I said just right now, you know, they always increase the cadence slightly more towards the end of the year. So if you were to apply that sort of thinking, that sort of rule of thumb, then it's very likely that either they match or surpass whatever they, you know, what they did last year of 165. I think 160, 170 is still quite doable this year. They just, you know, we're not very lucky so far in what we are right now in like January and February. It's not being the best of months. Ironically, last year they also were very lucky that in the summer we didn't have a lot of S words. They didn't have a lot of delays because of weather, for example, or like hurricanes going to Florida and things like that. We did have some, but there could have been more, right? And so, you know, they've been quite lucky lately. I think they probably have some kind of weather machine stored somewhere, probably to be able to control that.
I think we're on the wrong platform if we're going to start talking about weather conspiracy theories, but on a more serious note, though, there has been the fact this year also, unlike last year, that at least for the majority of Falcon 9, should I say, Launch Complex 39A isn't going to be available anymore. They're only going to be using it for, or ideally, they're only going to be using it for Falcon Heavy. And of course, those Falcon 9s with live methane payloads on board, if that makes sense. So, or that need to be fueled during fueling of the rocket. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the cadence pans out with only two ish active launch pads, I think it's safe to say.
They've been handling it. Oh, Yeah.
I was just going to
Talk
note that
about what we're seeing.
we can see on the left side a shortfall of gravitas is currently leaving. Now, it's not leaving for this mission, or at least I hope it's not leaving for this mission, but I'm sure it's leaving for the next mission out of the Cape, as we see the previously launched Falcon 9 booster literally just got loaded off the deck there. It hasn't even had its landing legs folded up yet, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's record holder B1067.
Alex, I did rudely interrupt you. If you'd like to continue with
Yeah,
what
I was
you
gonna
were going to mention.
I was gonna mention that they are actually doing quite well, considering that they're only using 2 of their 3 active Falcon 9 launch pads, right? That if you take into account, so last year, I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth here. Some of the data analysis, if you will. I think we're starting to see frost. I think, or at least condensation. It's quite hard today, I guess, to see the actual frost, but I can see some condensation. So that confirms propellant load is underway. Back to my talk about the launch pads, though. So last year, for example, we had 27 launches from 39A. So if you remove that from the tally of total Falcon 9 launches that they had last year, so 165 minus 27, if I'm not mistaken, that's that's 138, right? Chat. So 138 without Launch Complex 39A. But however, this year they are on track for 150, more or less, on average. So 150, if you think about it, it's more than 138. So they're doing better with just 2 launch pads, even though they don't have 39A. That's what I'm trying to mean here, that they're doing quite good. Like, even though they're going slightly slower, but this is with 2 pads rather than with 3. If we remove the effect of 39A on last year's launch cadence and everything, this year is better. So that's what I'm trying to get to with this sort of more in-depth look at the data.
That's pretty cool, not gonna lie. And we can see there that wider view of 39A. Looks like it's a new crane. Maybe it's not new, but I just noticed it for the first time. So it's a new crane at the Starship side of 39A, which of course now has its ship quick, or at least part of its ship quick disconnect arm installed as well, which is wonderful to see. And the work continuing on the orbital launch mount. I didn't even mean to say that, but there we go. Moving on, we have a question from Daily Tab 8766, who is asking, is there going to be a sonic boom in Fort Pierce, Florida, and also come this way to see separation? Max, I think it's probably unlikely, considering the landing is going to be over north of the Bahamas, but I mean, at least visuals wise, I'd imagine with the clear skies, it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, you'll still have a great view regardless. But I don't think Falcon 9 is heading south enough to actually hit y'all with a sonic boom. If it was performing a return to launch site, maybe there's a chance. Even though that is pretty far south, I think, or is that north? I don't know. Geography is not my thing. But I do believe so. You should see it very well, regardless. But in terms of a sonic boom, I think you're too far away, and Falcon 9 is not heading south enough. If it was flying on a polar trajectory and hugging the east coast of Florida, then maybe. But as it is now, with the booster heading downrange for a recovery, I don't believe so.
And we have, there we go, you can see the trajectory, or rather the hazard zones on the left side there. The ones near Florida, of course, for the launch, the ones near the Bahamas for the landing of the booster, which is going to be coming in for a landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Okay, let's have a look here for some more questions. Again, if you are just joining us as we approach T-minus 25 minutes and counting, don't forget you can tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF, and those questions and comments can be brought into the queue here in the background, and we can put them on screen and do our best at answering them. One of those questions is Dave Innsmore, who is asking, what is the best coast? East Coast, best coast? Question is answered. We also have the Flying Diver asking how many Starlink satellites are currently up and how many are planned to be up to complete. I'm doing a great job at this. I'll start it again. How many Starlink satellites are currently in space, and how many are planned to be in space to complete the Starlink network? Alex.
Well, the first one is easier than the last one. Right now, there's a little bit under 10,000. They've launched more than that, but because of different decisions and different outcomes and things like that, like they've been sort of deorbiting some of the older satellites, right? It's already been for some of those like 5-6 years already since they were launched, and so some of them are too old right now, and so they've been deorbiting some of those. There've been, of course, some of them that have failed. So when you account for all that, you get roughly a little bit under 10,000. According to Jonathan McDowell, right now it's 9,779 of them in orbit right now. A bunch of them, like the great majority, I should say, rather, are operational, and some of them are still sort of
Bird.
getting up into their operational orbit. Hi, Bird. And a small sort of subset of them are just not in, like, they are in orbit, but they are, not in control or things like that. Now, the important part of this question is the second one, and it's one that I cannot answer. The reason for that is because how many are planned? Well, it depends what you ask, right? And the reason for that is because they have two different constellations, and they have the old one, right? Where we saw, group 2, group 3, 4, and I think 5 at some point was also in that shell, in that sort of constellation. The ones that they then started to launch, it's the second constellation. It's a whole weird thing, right? So they have two different constellations. The first constellation, it's about 4,200 satellites. The second constellation is up to 30,000. But that's constellations, and then you've got satellites. Satellite versions run different from the constellation versions. So the satellite versions are, as we've been covering for the last 6 years. They started with V1.0, then V1.5, and then V2 Mini, which are the ones that are being launched today. Now, the V2 Minis, they started launching them to this second constellation. But if you've seen the launches, for example, from Vandenberg, like the one we covered the other day, those go to shells or sort of groups of satellites that are actually from the first constellation. So what they're doing is replacing the old satellites on the old constellation and sort of putting the new satellites with the new technology and the better bandwidth and everything to replace the old ones. And so that's why, as I said earlier in this long answer that I'm making, that they're deorbiting some of the older ones. Well, what do you do to fill the gap of those? You launch the new ones and sort of put them in their place. And so this is why it's complicated to answer this last question, because there's not really a definitive number. And this is why, because they are replacing also the ones from that they launch in the old times, I guess. And so whenever they actually go, for example, with the version 3 satellites with Starship, the same thing will happen. Eventually, these V2 mini satellites will be old and they'll be replaced by the other ones. And so there's going to be a point where we might have like 20,000 satellites of these Starlinks, but like you've got half of them are old, and so they need to be replaced by the other half and things like that. So actually, you only count like maybe 10,000 of them and things like that. So yeah, planned as in how many they want in a perfect situation where you have all of your satellites are completely new and everything on both constellations. That will be around 34,000 of these satellites. But expect many more of those because they're replaced. There you go. That's the long answer.
Wonderful Alex answer as always. You could also see on screen there, whilst Alex was answering a previous Starlink launch, actually from Vandenberg. Yes, believe it or not, we did a Vandenberg stream the other day, and if you are curious about that, then you should probably go and watch the replay of that stream, just saying, because I might clue you in a little bit more of what's going on there. Okay, let's have a look through here for some more questions as we approach the T-20 event, which is... Did I just time that perfectly? I think I just timed that perfectly.
I think you did.
You did.
Yeah, what can I say?
That's
Just,
the event right there.
Just a professional at work. Fantastic. Anyways, T-minus 20-minute vent is currently running. Max, what is T-minus 20-minute vent? Why T-minus 20-minute vent? We know when T-minus 20-minute vent, so I can't say that.
Yeah, so why? It is essentially, so it's formally called the LOX chilldown, but to us, it is the big vent or the best vent. And essentially what SpaceX is doing uh, is, so they are essentially beginning to flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through the plumbing in the transporter erector to, of course, chill them down to the required temperatures, because the last thing you want to do is flow any sort of cryogenic fluid through any plumbing or material that is not either at or very near the same temperatures, because that can cause the propellant to suddenly flash into a gas and expand and cause a whole bunch of damage and a headache for a lot of people, and that, of course, you don't want that. So what we are seeing now is that LOX turning into GOX, or gaseous oxygen, out of the vent from the transporter erector, and this vent will continue for about 2.5 more minutes. Once it stops at around 16.5 minutes, that is our visual indicator that stage 2 liquid oxygen loading is underway for Falcon 9. So as you can see, it is tailing off to the right today. That is because the wind is coming from the northeast, and the actual cloud itself serves as a good indicator as to what the weather is doing and what the wind is doing in terms of humidity, temperature, wind speed, etc. A whole bunch of other factors, but that is what's happening right now.
And as this vent continues to run, I have an important announcement to make, and that is the fact that we're gonna do a super chat goal. If we get 5 super chats before launch, I have written confirmation that Jerry Pike will remove the glove he is wearing in 14 degrees Celsius weather. That is a true fact. That will actually happen. The glove will be removed if we get 5 super chats before launch.
Or Jerry,
can confirm.
his hand will fall off.
It's going to be so cold in 14 degrees Celsius weather wearing a glove. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Try coming out here right now as it is, Ryan, and let's see how well you do.
Well, I won't be wearing gloves because it'll be nice and warm weather.
Says you.
Especially out there in the sun.
I don't know if we can get a live view of the offending glove in question, which is, I mean, personally, I don't get it, but there you go. 5 super chats before launch and the glove will be removed.
Okay, you guys give us a whole bunch of crap, but the thing is, people from the north come down here in the winter, and when it's like 13 degrees, 12 degrees Celsius, people from the north who you would think go, oh, this is really nice and warm, actually freeze their butts off because the cold down here sticks to you a lot more because the air is a lot thicker and a lot more humid. So the cold sticks to you a lot worse here. So a Florida 14 degrees is not the same as a Spain or a UK 13 degrees.
You say that as if it's not wet here, too.
Not like it is here.
Or in the UK.
Jerry, I'm afraid to say that the plan is working because we have My Mother Said with a $5 super chat. Thank you for your support. And they actually asked a question as well. How soon after launch do the satellites come online? PS West Coast, Best Coast. Well, I don't agree with that last part, but Alex, I'm sure you can answer the first.
Well, this is another one where it's like depends on what you mean online, right? If you mean like just booting up and things like that, we see them already lighting up even when it's inside of the fairing during Ascent, right? When they do fairing deployment, and we see the lights already coming up and everything on the satellites. That's clear that they're already sort of turning on and all that. Now, in terms of when they're actually operational or like sending signals and things like that, that's another one where it's like depends. Sending signals probably like right after deployment. They're probably already sending like telemetry and things like that to the ground. And then in terms of operations, that's probably a little bit more into their lives. It takes a few weeks for them to go up to their operational orbit because they have a very efficient, but also rather tiny and very sort of less powerful or unpowerful very weak engine. Essentially, it's very very efficient. Runs on argon and everything, Hall effect thruster and all that. But unfortunately, it means that it's just a tiny bit of thrust. So it takes a while for them to get up to their operational orbit. They also stop at some points as they go up to be able to be checked out, do some testing and things like that of their systems. So yeah, it can take anywhere from like a couple of weeks to maybe a couple of months, up to some of the satellites even can take like 6 whole months to get fully operational and things like that. So but yeah, that's more or less the different different answers, I guess, to this question, because commenting online, it's like, well, it depends.
Jerry, I have great news. In the span of 2 minutes, everyone agrees to take your gloves off. We have Bideford. Thank you for a $25 super chat saying I'm in. Thank you, Bideford. You're always in chat. We're very, very grateful for your continued support. Alyssa with the $10 super says, I promise your hands will be okay. Mimu Maki with a $20 super says, ditto Bideford. The big babies need supported. Oh my goodness. And the 5th super chat, Errol Mill, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, with the £2. UK is wet and cold, mostly 14 Celsius. It's time for shorts. And the gloves have been removed. And because the gloves have been removed, if we get 5 more, Max is going to take his hood off, which is going to a great start, because we have another one from XD9. Thank you for your support, saying, you all are crazy. 14C is freezing. No, it's not. Wyoming coast, best coast. I mean, I'll forward that one on to Adrian. Okay, number 2 already. Jesus Christ. Bideford Annette with another $20 super chat. I'll do one more. Take those gloves off. Thank you, Bideford. And Bennu Berry, thank you for your support here as well. Thankfully, an actual nice question we can talk about here. They're asking, what is the success criteria for Starship Flight 12 for you all? Very possible that Artemis 2 and Flight 12 are going to happen in the same window, which will be busy. Alex, what do you think first? What is success for you for Starship Flight 12?
Oh boy. I mean, in an ideal situation, it should be doing the entire mission. I've told about this with other folks, where it's like, when they upgrade Falcon 9, you would expect some failures, and yet it didn't, right? Like when they did the Cassiope mission with the first Falcon 9 V1.1, that was a success. They even tried the booster landing, and it almost was completely successful. Like they went down to the surface of the ocean. It just wasn't in a fully stable orientation, because it was spinning and whatnot. But still, they got through re-entry. That was the first time they were able to do that. When they did the first V1.2 launch, that was Orbcom. They did the RTLS back to the launch site for the first time, right? Back at LC1, they did they deployed 11 satellites. Like, you would expect that upgrading your rocket shouldn't turn up with 1,000 different issues, because you're supposed to upgrade your rocket based on the lessons learned from the previous version, right? And yet we saw a lot of issues with version 2. So because of that, that's the ideal situation, where it's like it should work completely perfect. That is not the real situation, unfortunately, with Starship. So I'd say it needs to get at least to MECO. I think it really needs to get to that point where booster separates, maybe the ship is lost or something during Ascent, but at least they get that Ascent, that data out of the booster, because it's a very new booster, 33 Raptor 3 engines, going uphill. They really need that data. If they can get that, I think that will be a success. But I will want more. Like, I definitely am looking for more out of this test flight. Yeah.
I have to agree with that. Max, what do you think? What is success for you for Flight 12?
Yeah, SpaceX cannot afford any sort of delays like they had with the beginning of version 2. I think ship needs to get to where it needs to go if they opt to do a suborbital trajectory like they've done at every launch at this point, and the booster needs to prove itself with a controlled splashdown in the Gulf. SpaceX really cannot afford any mishaps or delays here, especially with the timelines of NASA's HLS contract requirements coming up. So I'm really hoping for a smooth start for version 3. But hopefully they will have done enough testing. But oh my gosh, enough testing ahead of time, both at Massey's with the ship and then also over at the pad with the booster to give as much confidence for all vehicle and ground systems as possible. So yeah, ship needs to make it across the globe, and then also booster splashdown in the Gulf. That is my idea of success for Flight 12.
And we have gotten another super chat from Ewan Lau with a €2 super. I love you, USSF, Wyoming Coast, Best Coast. I mean, again, I'll forward it on to Adrian, but that is one more super chat, and Max's hood will be removed. So, I don't know, Max, you might want to wrap up warm a little bit more, and I suppose one way you can wrap up warm is with the Artemis designs now available
Wow.
at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Such as the SLS assembly design, which is our wonderful design, somewhat inspired by a Swedish furniture shop. You may or may not have been able to tell that, the instruction manual, but it's an awesome design nonetheless, with lots of little Easter eggs hidden throughout. Step number 1, of course, is to don your spacesuit before assembling the rocket, and you can actually see how SLS is put together before flying Orion around the moon, which is a pretty nifty design indeed, if that takes your fancy. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Of course, it's not the... we're zooming in. We're zooming in on the Easter eggs. There you go. You can see all of the mini steps to get ready to launch. 1 Orion capsule and 4 RS-25s required for assembly. Of course, this is not the only thing we have on the store, because we also have lots of prints available to decorate your walls. As, you know, if you have any plain walls you want to make look a little bit more exciting, we've got plenty of prints available, both in metal and paper form, whatever floats your boat. Metal prints and paper prints, for that matter, probably don't float, so please don't try. But of course, we've got loads of SLS prints on there, and Falcon prints and Starship prints, and all different types of vehicles on there. Oh, we've got New Glenn prints as well. New Glenn is such a photogenic rocket. I think it is one of the most prettiest launch vehicles ever built. So, you know, I would highly recommend some new, maybe a little bit biased, but I would highly recommend some New Glenn prints as well. But of course, we've got prints of pretty much every single type of rocket we've ever covered on there, even dating all the way back to the beloved Space Shuttle. So if you are interested at all, shop.nasaspaceflight.com is the place to go. And yeah, fingers crossed you could make your interior look a little bit more exciting with some fancy prints. Okay. 7 minutes and 37 seconds left to run in today's countdown as we prepare for the launch of Starlink 6-110. I don't know if I should say 110 or 110 or 110. It doesn't. There's like no nice way to say that. I mean, good luck to whoever's going to be commentating on Starlink Group 6-111, because that's going to be even worse. Anyways, I know. What, 110? I just the
Yeah.
and is, it just feels clunky. That's all. It just feels clunky. Anyways, Alex, at
It's
7
your
minutes left to
language.
go. I know. At 7 minutes left to go, what are we looking forward to in the next few minutes as we prepare to launch?
Yeah, so right now they should have begun engine chill on those Merlin engines, basically preparing them for ignition. And that sort of prepares them and conditions them thermally to be able to run the liquid oxygen through those pumps, and also so that they don't cavitate. It also helps them fill those pumps and not be, with some empty places or anything like that. That's usually called priming the pumps. So that is part of that countdown. Now, around this point in the countdown, they should also be wrapping up RP1 load on the first stage. So we saw earlier, we were talking about, T-minus 35, that's when they start propellant load, and they load RP1 on both stages. T-minus 20 minutes, they not only chill down the liquid oxygen line to the second stage, but they also wrap up RP1 load on the second stage. Now, so when do they wrap up that on the first stage? Now, so it is around this time in the timeline that they do that. At the same time, about a minute or so, they're going to be starting preparations for Stromback retract. So right now we're not able to see it because the crew access tower there, it's sort of in the way, but right behind it and next to the rocket, there's the Stromback, the part of the transport director that sort of supports the rocket, allows them to be able to put it from horizontal to vertical position, and that'll be retracting about 1.8 degrees around 4 minutes before the launch. And so that'll be one of the steps in the countdown that we should see next.
And coming up next is, of course, going to be an event which is going to be tracked by our two people out in the field. One of them is Max Evans. So at this point, Max, I am going to bid you farewell for 10 minutes or so, and good luck with tracking this launch.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good luck, and we will see y'all on the other side.
T-minus 4 minutes and 55 seconds and counting towards the launch of Starlink Group 6-110. Incredibly clunky name. I will not stop complaining about it. Billy Day is saying send Ryan to Florida during midsummer. Would not complain. I'd be very happy actually, and I would say how wonderful
I've
the
been
weather
in
is.
Florida
And
midsummer.
it's wonderful weather. I mean, I don't know what these
Yeah.
people are talking about with bad weather. Just saying.
Very rainy in the
Anyways.
afternoon.
As we briefly heard there from SpaceX Mission Control, they are getting ready for strongback retract, which is, of course, when the strongback retracts away from the rocket, doing an initial fallback ever so slightly before fully falling back at the time of launch.
Retract has started.
And there we go,
There we
it's
go.
starting. Those clamps will be extending, and then the strongback structure will be rotating backwards ever so slightly. A little bit trickier to see from the wider views, but if we get any close-up views, it'll be even more apparent. But we can see the claw opening up there. There we go. That's the view we wanted. The claw
I love this
opening
view
up.
with the LC with the landing zone to the left.
It's so wonderful to see. Also, very beautiful with the long shadow. And now it's a very beautiful, let's cut away.
Oh.
Thanks, SpaceX. But very beautiful with the sunset shining on the side of Falcon 9 and the long shadows on the landing zone there. Pretty cool to see there. Of course, that landing zone being used for the first time on Crew 12. How long ago was that now? 2 weeks ago? Time flies when you're having fun.
Yep.
Wayne, we got it back. And you can see the strong back now starting to retract as well. You'll see the umbilical stretch out, which is completely normal for this phase of the countdown.
Those two fairing halves that we can see, they are also flight proven. One of them has flown for 26 flights and the other has done 19. So this will be the 27th and the 20th flight for these fairing halves. They're going to be recovered downrange by Bob. That's the name of the fairing recovery vessel.
I don't know if Max can still hear us as he prepares to track this launch, but breaking news, Alyssa has done another $10 super chat. Thank you, Alyssa. Time for work, unfortunately. Many happy VAB squeals to all. I look forward to watching the replay on your break. And making sure you two don't develop hypothermia. The suspense will be unbearable. But because of that, thank you, Alyssa. The hood has to be removed, Max, if you can still hear us. The hood has to be removed.
Oh.
So we're now under 2.5 minutes left in the countdown. Should be expecting some more call-outs from SpaceX momentarily. It's
Yep,
always
up
this
next.
awkward... Go on, Alex.
I was going to say up next should be the second stage Lux load complete. That'll wrap up propellant load on Falcon 9.
So we approach T-minus 2 minutes and counting. This is always the awkward time because it's not close enough to the launch to listen in for the communications from SpaceX, but it's also too close to the launch to start answering questions because we, of course, have a launch we want to focus on here. But we are continuing to count down, and the weather is looking absolute. Oh, just look at that shot. Beautiful sunset on the
Wow.
horizon there. And you can see that. There we go.
go.
Oxygen load wrapped up on the second stage. But yeah, the sun setting over Florida. We could see the various waterways around the Cape. They could also see I think it's the payload processing building that SpaceX uses off in the distance as well, which is wonderful to see, as always, in this evening lighting. And some final venting here, Alex, from the strongback as we get ready for launch.
Yep, doing all of those pushbacks as they are cold and gas closeouts, depressurizing the systems, and also releasing all of the remaining gaseous oxygen or liquid oxygen that may be on the lines. Should be coming up now on startup.
Of course, SpaceX's comms is going to be a little bit delayed by a few seconds. Maybe a few more seconds.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go.
And there we go. T-minus
means-
40 seconds.
That means Falcon 9 is now in control of the count. Should be coming up on go for launch from the launch reactor.
Go for launch.
And that is what we want to hear. Falcon 9 is go for launch, on go for launch. Fingers crossed the field team is go for launch, and I hope you go for launch in chat as well, because in about 15 seconds time we should see liftoff of Starlink 6-110. 10 seconds left to go in the countdown. Keep an eye at the base of the rocket, because we will see the big launch plume as the steam starts to kind of engulf the base of the vehicle. There we go. And that is our liftoff. Starlink 6-110 off and away, delivering more internet satellites into space. "60 seconds into flight, and Falcon 9 is pitching downrange away from Florida's Space Coast as we are starting to approach max Q, the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the launch vehicle. That should be happening right now. You can see the vapor forming as Falcon 9 pushes through this regime of flight. Good performance from all 9 Merlin engines on that first stage, and you can see that plume starting to expand as the atmosphere gets thinner, as Falcon 9 gets higher. 90 seconds into flight right now. Next event coming up is of course going to be main engine cutoff, also known as MECO. Beautiful side-on view here from south of the Cape. That's coming up at 2 minutes and 24 seconds into flight, so in about 40 seconds time. Keep an eye out for that, but that plume shining bright over the skies of Florida this evening as we get a wonderful...
Look at that angle.
Yeah, a beautiful side-lit view of Falcon 9 as it pitches downrange.
That is crazy. Yeah, I love that side angle.
Yeah, this is currently being... I'm not sure who is tracking it, but it is being tracked by one of our robotic assets just south of Port Canaveral, which gives us this wonderful side view. Gage is tracking this view in particular, all the way from Starbase, currently controlling it remotely, which is incredible track, considering he's a few thousand miles away. But there is MECO, main engine cutoff. Next up is stage separation, and then we should be seeing the ignition of the Merlin vacuum-optimized engine on the second stage. And I think that's it. And we should also see the cold gas thrusters on the... I think we can see them there on the booster starting to puff away to reorient that booster to prepare for its entry burn in a few minutes' time. You can see 2 distinct dots in the sky. The slightly brighter one, that is the second stage. And I think we can even see the payload fairings. Yeah, we can see the fairings falling away from the second stage from the ground. That is a beautiful shot. 4 dots in the sky, 2 stages, 2 fairings, one of them headed to space, 3 of them coming back to Earth.
Yep. There we go. That's so cool. It's kind of crazy that those fairing halves have launched more times than the booster. Now this is the 10th launch of the booster. Again, 27th and 20th for the 2 fairing halves. So, yeah. Wow.
That is such a pretty sight on the right-hand side. Oh my goodness.
Sunsets from space cannot be beaten. You can see the Terminator line over the limb of the Earth there. And, you know, I have a feeling that the landing might be taking place in not darkness, but, you know, after sunset, like we're launching in sunrise and landing in sunset. If that is the case, that is somewhat poetic. Should be coming up in about 4 minutes' time.
The beautiful thing of those, like of the view on the right hand side on that second stage view, is precisely that Terminator line, as you said, right? Like that division between daylight and nighttime, where you can see some of the textures, I guess, much better, and like the clouds and the shadows. It's so cool and it's so beautiful.
Still seeing the booster puffing away with its cold gas thrusters there as it reorients for the entry burn, which is going to be coming up at T plus 6 minutes and 8 seconds, and that'll last for about 25 seconds or so as the booster protects itself from the thermal regime that would otherwise be occurring at that point in flight, as we know past T plus 5 minutes. Second stage continuing to burn at this point. That's going to be delivering the 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into the initial parking orbit before conducting another burn later in the mission to raise that orbit and then deploy those Starlink satellites. And you can see there the sunset live on the left-hand side. Beautiful gradient in the sky.
Is that the plume left over by the launch at the top?
I think so.
It is.
We can still see some of the vapor lingering in the air, which is also pretty
Ooh.
cool.
Look at the booster cam. It's its own shadow.
Wow. This is why we say Twilight launches are supreme.
Especially when launching to the east. Six minutes into flight now. Entry burn should be coming up any second.
Vehicles continue to follow a nominal trajectory.
And the vehicles are where they should be right now, as we can hear from SpaceX. And we are standing by for the ignition of the Merlin 1Ds once again for the entry burn. And here we go. 3 engines running as expected on the booster for the entry burn, fighting fire with fire, as we love to say. Slowing down to protect itself from the atmosphere. Passing through 40 kilometers in altitude at this point for the booster, over 150 kilometers in altitude for the second stage at the moment.
Watch out for after the entry burn ends, because now the first stage starts using its grid fins and steering its way to the drone ship. Look at that.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
And that altitude will continue to decrease ever rapidly from the booster's point of view, as it is now using the drag from the atmosphere to slow itself down and steer itself towards the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Landing burn coming up at T plus 7 minutes and 55 seconds, landing at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. 7.5 minutes into flight. And I think the sun might have set. Yeah, I think the sun might have set on the ocean surface here. But we are getting a very beautiful re-entry from B1092, nonetheless.
If it lands, I have a very nice stat for you later.
Okay, well, it's coming up. 5 kilometers to go, 1,000 kilometers per hour. It's got to scrub off 1,000 kilometers per hour in velocity in the space of 4,000 meters, which is pretty impressive. But here we go. Ignition of the Merlin center engine on the booster as it now descends towards the ocean floor, the ocean surface, through the clouds, and fingers crossed on the other side, there's going to be a drone ship waiting for it. There it is. That is just read the instructions with the deluge system running. And descending onto the deck is booster B1092, which for the 10th time has flown and landed back on Earth.
The water of the deluge on the camera lens. But it's clearly there on the deck.
As we now turn our attention to the second stage, which should be cutting off right now. There we go. And that is 29 more Starlink satellites into Earth orbit. As I said earlier, that stage will be igniting once again in about an hour's time to... There we go, park orbit insertion. And that burn will be starting at T plus 53 minutes and 52 seconds to raise the orbit and send those Starlinks into their initial orbit, where they will then be deployed and raised by themselves over the coming days and weeks to their operational orbits. But there we go. Max, that is a sunset on Slick 40. I mean, this is a very beautiful sight, even though it doesn't have a rocket on it anymore.
Indeed, it is. I mean, again, as I was just saying, like this is why twilight launches are supreme, either sunrise or sunset. Just because the light is nice and soft, it's warm, and more often than not, especially with sunset, you can track the rocket very far downrange. Not to mention the amazing views that we get on board Falcon, both stage 2 and the booster itself. Absolutely beautiful. Not much of a vapor cone today. I didn't actually see one on my camera tracking it upwards. But still, my goodness. I mean, you can see the red light over at pad 40 now. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And just it never gets old, guys. It never does.
I'm sure we'll have some replays coming up momentarily. We also have some pictures coming up from the field, so keep an eye out for those. Alex, though, you promised me a statistic before landing, and now it's landed. I want to know what statistic you had promised.
Well, because this booster is on, well, has already done its 10th flight. And you remember when it used to be this big thing that Falcon 9 boosters are going to be flying until 10 flights and things like that, right? Like it was this big thing. Well, this is a 21st booster that has already done that. And many, many more that you know, like a bunch of those have already gone to many, many more flights than 10. So that was the stat that I was going to bring up with this mission, because I find it interesting, you know. Again, at the time, it used to be a big deal. Now it's like, well, it's just the 21st booster that has already done that. So there you go.
I mean, I remember when it was a big deal when a Falcon 9 booster was flying for a third time, and we were like, oh my god, a third time? That's like so old. It's so toasty. How is this thing even going to fly with 3 flights? And now we have boosters doing 10 times that number and just shrugging it off like it's no big deal, which is pretty epic to see. And this is only the beginning, because, you know, one day we're going to be having starships coming and going from Earth, you know, tens if not hundreds of times, boosters and ships and upper stages, and those things are going to be very, very toasty indeed, coming in from orbital velocity. Anyways, let's turn our attention to these replays. First of all, from Fleet Cam down at Rusty's at the port. Very thankful to Rusty's for hosting us there. And we also have a live view on the right-hand side from our other Fleet Cam. And apparently, during the launch, SpaceX teams removed one of the landing legs from booster B1077, which is the right-hand booster, which is, I think, peculiar to say the least. It'll be interesting to see what SpaceX plans with that booster there. Usually they just fold them up, Alex, unless I'm mistaken, and then roll them back to Roberts Road.
And sometimes, you know, every once in a while you're going to have a leg that it's not going to cooperate, I guess, and you have to remove it. But, you know, the other 3 are still on. So there you go. They'll probably just have to replace one.
I'm sure they have a stock of landing legs somewhere they can pull from.
Oh, they do. They test them also at McGregor, by the way. We see them.
Yep. And we can see they're zoomed in from Fleet Cam. So if you had a good pair of binoculars and you were at Rusty's, this is the view you would see, because that is looking over the water several miles to Space Launch Complex 40. So if you're ever in the area and you want to see a launch, Port Canaveral is a good place to do so. This view from one of our robotic cameras at the Kennedy Space Center LC-39 press site. You can see the NASA media building over to the right-hand side there as well. Falcon 9 lifts above the shrubbery.
Bye.
Are we going to see? There we go. I see another view. Wider view of Falcon 9 lifting off from Slick 40. And very briefly, you might recall, before launch, first of all, if we got 5 super chats, Jerry was going to take his glove off because it's 14 degrees Celsius, which is ridiculous. And he did oblige. He took off his glove. And then we said if we get 5 more, Max will take off his hood. I want to see if Max has taken his hood off, so fingers crossed we get that live view.
I have, actually, right? And you will see in the upcoming replay my hood has been removed. Not my hoodie, but my hood itself.
Okay, I'll have to trust your word on that one. Nonetheless, we have got a little bit more support in chat. First of all, Elias, thank you for the 19 pesos. Very much appreciated there. And Jeff, who has been on the store, has got the SLS assembly shirt we were showcasing a few minutes ago. So thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoy that shirt. It is a very nice design indeed. Awesome shirt. I do agree. So hopefully you enjoy it. As we continue to watch some replays of Starlink Group 6-110, which launched 15 minutes ago. Oh, and you can see, there you go, you can see the plume as it gets through the upper parts of the atmosphere there. And that did linger for a little while.
I've seen some people in our back channel of our team already posting some of their own views.
Before we get to those pictures, though, we just cut away, but we could see the shadow on that replay there of the plume causing the shadow. Now fast forward. There we go. Thank you, Jake Egan, producing today's stream. You see the shadow there of the plume, which is awesome. Okay, now we can go back. There we go. Okay. Wider replay from our deployed assets, looking over the water there towards Slick 40. I'm sure we'll get a replay of the track, or we'll get the behind the scenes replay. Max, that hood is up.
See no gloves on Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry obliged. Max rudely ignored my request, which I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to hear.
Okay, well, if it's been down since I came back to the computer after launch. Maybe my memory was just failing me. I'm sorry. Check the camera right now. You will see it is down, and it has been down. It's down now. I promise.
I was going to say you were caught red-handed, but you're more caught red-hooded.
The hoodie's not even blue, Ryan. That joke didn't even stick.
But there we go. Okay, the hood has been removed. That is your live confirmation. The hood has been removed. I think, the only logical conclusion we have here is that the delay in removing the hood, we can blame hydrogen for that one.
Wait, Max, you had your hat and hood at the same time?
I did. This is not exactly a cold weather hat, Alex. This is more of a sun hat. It isn't for cold.
Then why are you wearing it? Because according to you, it's freezing cold. It's like negative temperatures. It's like polar extremes, and you're wearing summer clothing.
That's why I had my hood up, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll just losing the word a little bit on that one. Anyways, this is that awesome side view track we have from Gage, who was controlling this from Starbase, literally thousands of miles away over the internet, robotically moving this camera, which is south of Port Canaveral. And a wonderful, awesome side view here, because again, as this was launching with the sun behind the rocket as it ascended, gives you this awesome kind of side-lit view against that darker sky.
People in chat are saying that you should remove your hat too. Just saying.
No.
And you can see there, you're even still able to follow the dot there with the sky being the way it is. And there we go.
Bye,
This
Falcon
is
9.
Bye. Have a nice time. This is Jerry's track here, as I think we'll get some audio replay here as well coming up. There we go.
Ooh.
the awesome view, allowing us to even see the vehicle as it pitches. Like, you can actually see the vehicle turning in real time, which is awesome to see. Always wonderful to hear a rumble of those Merlin engines as another Falcon 9 lifts off into space. Of course, we're not going to have to wait too long until the next one, because next up, out, the next Falcon 9 is not even in 15 hours' time, but the next one from the Cape is currently scheduled for Friday morning, so I'm sure everyone's going to be looking forward to that wonderful
58
timing.
hours.
58 hours from now. Back to our regular service of late night, early morning Starlinks.
And then the next one is another evening Starlink. Yeah, I'm looking here, and I think that might actually be a jellyfish 2 Starlinks from now. So we'll see.
That's also going to be one of those, if I'm not mistaken, going to be one of those northeast Starlinks you were talking about earlier in the stream. Yep. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see with this evening lighting as well. Of course, this is what it would have looked like if you were on the ground in Titusville, just as our very own Julia Bergeron was, and was able to capture this view of the exhaust, or rather the vapor, lingering in the sky. And you didn't have to be in Titusville to see the launch. You could have been a little bit further away, because all the way down many, many, many miles south, this was what Sawyer saw as the vehicle ascended into space. You can see the booster on the left and the second stage on the right. This is after stage separation. Beautiful lighting, allowing this to be viewed from many miles away. Also a lovely Ascent view that Sawyer managed to capture here. Of course, you would have also gotten a wonderful view if you happened to be at the LC-39 press site, just as Jerry was. Maybe a little bit more of an exclusive club, this one, but a wonderful liftoff shot from Jerry as Falcon 9 almost clears the tower here, lifting off from Slick 40. And of course, Max got some wonderful pictures as well. Let's see what Max got. We've got another liftoff shot here as it clears the lightning protection system. Got another picture as it starts to pitch over, you can just see there. Oh, this is nice. Lovely side lighting from the sun there.
Yeah, this is why evening launches. Oh gosh, this is one of the ones I didn't mean to send. Sorry, Jay. This is raw and unedited. I think there's also one more in here as well, but it's a great demonstration of just to show you how nice evening light can be when the sun is at your back against a somewhat darker sky. Falcon 9 really is just gorgeous in this light. I mean, any rocket would be. New Glenn launched in very similar conditions to this for Flight 2. But yeah, it was absolutely wonderful tonight.
And this is another awesome shot as well. You can see, very reminiscent of the shuttle launches with the big SRB plumes, although definitely not an SRB plume. It would be a little bit bigger if it was, but still, yes, awesome exactly. Shot of the Falcon 9 heading downrange with the exhaust plume behind it. Okay, so another 29 satellites on their way to their final orbit as we speak. 23 minutes ago was the launch, but that's not the only thing happening at the Space Coast this week, because no earlier than tomorrow morning, NASA's saying first motion scheduled at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning local time for SLS to roll back to the vehicle assembly building ahead of Artemis 2. Hopefully the stay in the VAB isn't that long and we can still get a launch in that April opening window. Alex, this is not the only thing that could be rolling soon, though, because there's another big rocket which could be rolling from a different location.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe we'll see. There's potential for maybe Ship 39 rolling at Starbase out from the production site from Mega Bay 2 out to Massey's, excuse me. So hopefully we see that this week. We have a rollout closure for tonight and then another one for tomorrow night. We'll see which one is for which. You know, it could always be some kind of boring thing or something like that. But we're keeping our eyes, of course, always on the hardware. And, you know, knock on wood, one of those is for Ship 39. Of course, in the future, we'll see some of those ships rolling out to the Cape, and there's the barge, in fact, right there at the bottom that will be helping with that. That's Marmac 31, also known as You'll Thank Me Later. Still not branded as such, but in the future it'll be branded as such. And so, I thought it was nice that as we're looking here at those two Falcon 9 boosters, there's also the barge there that will be used to move those starships from Starbase to Florida right there in view. So quite fitting.
Very exciting indeed. Of course, if you want to make sure you don't miss any of those, you know what to do. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you get notified. Fingers crossed by YouTube. But, it's not 100% reliable. So, of course, I would recommend you follow us over on the socials as well, whatever your platform of choice happens to be, because those notifications do happen to be a little bit more reliable than the YouTube ones, I think it's safe to say. Anyways, Alex, thank you so much for joining us this evening for another launch of Starlink satellites.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as usual.
Of course, thank you to Max as well. Thank you for heading out in these beautiful, mild, chill temperatures, which absolutely nobody is complaining about.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan. Jerry and I are actually moving around now. We are quite cold. But it has been a pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us this evening. We certainly have a lot more Falcon action coming up, and then also with SLS coming up tomorrow morning, and hopefully ship 39 coming up at some point soon as well. Stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.
And there we go. Also, thanks to Jerry Pike for rolling out and operating one of the cameras this evening. Of course, thank you to Jay Keegan as well in the background, pushing the buttons, making today's stream happen. And have I forgotten anyone? I'm really paranoid I've forgotten someone. I don't think I've forgotten. Oh, I've forgotten myself. I've been Ryan Caton. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Traveling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, Gino.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers, fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.